the second day of Akhil Bharatiya Shiksha Samagam. The session to be held today is on National Institute Ranking Framework. As you're all aware, that the National Institution Ranking Framework has been assessing and evaluating the quality of educational institution in India since 2015. We had recently released the 8th edition of India Ranking on 5th of June. Since inception, we have seen changes in the ranking framework based on the feedback received from all the institutions, and today, the existing portfolio of India Ranking has increased to 13 categories and subject domains. To throw more light on this and also discuss the opportunities and challenges of this framework and how to go forward, it is my honor to introduce to you the eminent panelists here. We have amongst us Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, Chairman Standing Committee of IIT Council, former Chairman Space Commission, Department of Space, and Chairman ISRO. He is also chairing the committee constituted by Ministry of Education on transformative reforms for strengthening periodic assessment and accreditation of all higher education institutions in India. I welcome you, sir. We also have amongst us Professor Anil Sahasbuddhe, sir, who is Chairman National Education Technology Forum and also Chairman National Board of Accreditation and former Chairman of AICTE. Both will be co-chairing this session. I welcome you, sir. On the panel, we have Dr. Ram Sharma, who is currently working as Vice Chancellor of University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, one of the youngest in India. I welcome you, sir. We also have Dr. Bhimraya Maitri, Director of IIM Nagpur and former Director of IIM Tiruchirappalli. We also have Professor K. Uma Maheshwar Rao, Director of National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, and former Director of NIT, Suratkal. Now I'd like to request Reena Sonowal ma'am, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Education, to kindly present memento to the honorable co-chairs and eminent panelists. Now I would request our honorable co-chairs to kindly take over for further discussions, please. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good afternoon, morning. Good morning, everyone. We will get into slowly the mode of afternoon anyway. Well, we are in the second day of the Akhil Bharatiya Shiksha Samagam. Yesterday already 8 sessions were already over. We are running into the second day morning session on National Institutional Ranking Framework. The co-chair, Dr. Radhakrishnan ji, who has been also the chair for the Committee for Reforms in both accreditation as well as ranking system, will talk about what reforms are desired, required, and how we are going forward immediately after. I tell about the background of NIRF, when did it start, what is the progress that is made, where do we stand as on today. And then we have three panelists. Each one of them in their own right have done splendid work. Dr. Uma Maheshwar Rao, Director of NIT Rourkela, is one of the NITs which has been figuring amongst the top ranks in the NIRF. Dr. Bhimarai Maitri, he has been associated with young IIMs, the second of those series of IIMs, and therefore how a new institution has to figure out how to delve with the ranking system. And we have Dr. Ram of UPS, a most young, dynamic Vice Chancellor of UPS, will also tell about how a young private university also leads its way in order to get better ranking. I think these are excellent panelists. So with that introduction, I will start with the ranking framework as it exists today. You know, we all talk about in the NEP, access, equity, quality, affordability, accountability, the 5 pillars which are very, very important. And also there is a vision to be comparable to the best in the world. That is what is envisaged through the NEP 2020. And if we have to do that, two important things which we have to undertake is accreditation and ranking, where we compete with each other, we do our best step forward and then move ahead. And the things that are required is to create awareness workshops, create quality consciousness amongst our institutions, set up IQAC cells, mentoring, and then a lot of analytics which will help us in moving forward. This is what is required as far as NEP is concerned. And quite often we talk about our institutions not figuring in global rankings, be it QS or Times Higher Education ranking. And vis-a-vis that, where do we stand? What we need to do is also another issue which is associated with NIRF rankings. Now coming to India ranking systems, which started in the year 2016, but it was announced by the Minister for Education in 2015 itself, and parameters were decided as to what is to be done in terms of the ranking system for 4 different categories of institutions in the first round. And the first ranking started in the year 2016. And today we talk about 8 rounds of rankings which have already taken place. And there have been increase in the number of programs accredited, ranked, number of types of organizations that are included into the ranking system, and there is a width and depth created in the entire NIRF ranking system. And therefore a framework which outlines the methodology of ranking institutions has been studied by most of you, all of you who are, some of you Vice Chancellors, we have even UGC Chairman sitting here, all of you have participated in the ranking system and know the processes involved, but still for some of the newcomers who are still not part of this, there is some engagement which we are going to do through this process. There are 5 major parameters which are considered in the ranking. Number 1 is teaching, learning and resources, which carries 30% weightage. We have research and professional practice, again 30% weightage. Graduate outcomes, 20% weightage. Outreach and inclusivity, 10% weightage, and the perception, 10% weightage. Now coming to each one of them, there are sub-parameters. Under teaching, learning and resources, whether it is student strength, whether it is in terms of faculty-student ratio, whether it is in terms of financial resources, faculty qualifications and experience, they all carry weightages within that 30% weightage in the overall ranking system. Similarly, in the research and professional practice, there are 4 sub-parameters, starting with publications, citations, patents, and the projects undertaken by the institutions. These are 4 parameters. Again, sub-weightages are existing there, which total to 100. And then 30% weightage is taken in the overall ranking marking. The third one is graduate outcomes. Since we all talk about outcome-based accreditation, this is also very important parameter. 20% weightage is given, starting with placement and higher studies, a very important weightage of 40%, and then university exam results, the medium salary, PhD graduated from the institution, all of these are weighted here in this category, that is graduate outcomes. The next one is the outreach and inclusivity, which does not exist in any of the international ranking systems. We give a lot of importance. When I said when implementing NEP, we talk about access, equity, and affordability, and therefore we have this parameter which has our own diversity, which is regional diversity. International organizations which do ranking, they talk about how many multiple nations are participating in the educational institution. We have our own diversity, which is regional diversity, women diversity. We have economically and socially challenged students, and also faculties and facilities for PWD candidates, Divyangjans. This is also one of the important parameters we consider under outreach and inclusivity. As far as perception is concerned, the perception is from the employers as well as the academic peers. A lot of emails are sent, and based on the feedback that is received, this perception parameter is taken into account. So with the 30, 30, 20, 10, and 10 weightage, out of 100 marks, whatever institution gets higher marks will be considered for ranking. And there are different categories involved. I will come to that. But in fact, the process, as you all know, it starts with the announcement that institutions are required to give data. This data collection system is a very robust one. The data capturing is through DCS, and all the institutions, whatever data is provided, then starts getting analyzed. One very important parameter on which data analysis is very robust is in terms of publications, citations, and patents, and the data integration, because this can be validated by using various software which are available. This is done through InflibNet, whether it is Scopus Index journals. They are all recorded, and therefore whatever numbers are given as data by the institutions, they get validated, and if there is any doubt, they get corrected, and this process goes on. There are other ways of also checking. We keep this data to be available not only in our BA website, that is ranking website, NIRF, but also ask all institutions to put it up transparently in the respective websites. And this is visible to all other institutions as well. And many of the institutions, they give comments on the data from different stakeholders about the correctness or otherwise about some of the parameters. To just give an example, some institutions, suppose, would have claimed that we have done some 120 workshops for various types of activities. And some institution will say that we don't think it has given such kind of an input, which is not right. Immediately, a lot of activity goes on in the back end, verification of that happens. And based on that, we also have a dialogue with the institution. What is the type of workshop that you claim to be as an academic workshop? And then based on all of that, there is some tweaking which happens. It's also acceptable to the institution because they would have given data assuming something which is not the right way of interpretation, and therefore some changes do happen. This also happens in terms of consultancy projects. At times, some institutions say that we have done 800 consultancy projects. Suddenly, eyebrows get raised, and then we look at it more closely, and then have a dialogue with the institution. We come to know that a lot of testing work which is done in the civil engineering, one rod being tested for what is known as under UTM with using universal testing machine for strength of materials to know the tension or compression value of that. That may be having a financial outlay of about 1,000 rupees, but it is not a consultancy project, but a testing project, and therefore the information gets further tweaked, and based on that, finally, analysis takes place, data correction, and peer perception survey, as I said, from both employers, that means industry, as well as peers in the academic field. Their rating will be taken into account, and finally, the release of the ranking takes place. If you look at the rankings, in the first round in the year 2016, there were only 4 disciplines: the university, engineering, management, and pharmacy. And then there was demand that more and more things should be added. Because of our capacity and limitations, we didn't go forward in one step, but over the years, the number of disciplines and programs have been increasing. The newly added categories in the 2017 were overall category and the college category. That means the university affiliated colleges were also asked to participate in the ranking system. Subsequently, new disciplines like law, medicine, architecture were added. In 2020, dental was added. In 21, research institutions was a separate category added. And in 23, there is an innovation category. There was a separate innovation ranking going on from AICT earlier, which was transferred to the National India Ranking Framework, and therefore that is also added to this. So there are now 12 separate categories of ranking which have been taking place. And there is demand for more, from different sectors. As far as the participation is concerned, there has been constantly increase in participation, starting from hardly 3,000 institutions participating in the first round when even college category was started, to today more than 8,000 institutions are participating in different types of our what we call rankings, whether it is overall, university, college, engineering, management, pharmacy, architecture, dental, and so on. So I think there is a big interest which is there across the nation because of high credibility that has come in. Prior to NIRF started, we are all aware that different magazines and some of the newspapers were doing ranking, and there was no validation of that ranking, and therefore National Institutional Ranking Framework has come to stay, and wide acceptability has come, and gradually more and more number of institutions are participating in this. The number of institutions participating is still across the regions not uniform. This is one very important thing which we should note, that when it comes to South, the number started also large number, 1546. Today it is 3,444, followed by the Western region, 834 to 2,673, and then comes the northern and the eastern regions with 1298 and 1271 number of institutions participating. So still we have a long way to go as far as more number of institutions to participate across the country, because we have about 45,000 plus colleges which are there in the Aisha portal, plus 1,200 odd universities, including deemed universities and universities from different ministries. And in order to onboard them, we need to do a lot of work. As far as the outcome is concerned, because of the work that is done in the last 8 years, gradually, if you look at the average faculty qualifications, there has been a marked improvement. This pink color shows faculty with masters, and the blue color shows for faculty with PhD. In all the colleges over the years from 2016-17 to 2023 now and 24, number of faculty with PhD has been constantly increasing, and number of faculty with masters has decreased. That means some of the faculty who were only masters have completed their PhD and gone ahead. And this is very clear. This is not only in the top 100 institutions, but also in the remaining institutions who do not rank within the top 100. So there is an overall increase in the academic activity in the institutions leading to PhD degrees of the various faculty members. Similarly, if you look at the number of citations in the year 2017 and now 2023, in almost all the domains, be it in the overall, all universities, colleges, engineering, management, pharmacy, none of the curves is bending downwards, is all upwards. So that means all variety of institutions participating in NIRF, their citations are increasing, which is leading to improved ranking of Indian institutions even in the world rankings. This is another slide which shows at the bottom the contribution of Indian institutions towards research is about 4.81% overall. This includes all programs, arts, commerce, science, engineering, medicine, all of them together 4.81% of the world's research is conducted from India. And if you look at the further detail, out of all this research, nearly 54.8% of the research is from our top 100 institutions in the overall category in India. That means there are about 50,000 odd institutions in the country, and the 54% of the research contribution comes from only top 100 institutions. And this is what is to be borne in mind. And then if you look at those institutions who are participating in the NIRF ranking, which is 8,000 out of 50,000, the contribution from those institutions to the research is 87.71%. So there is hardly 12% of the contribution in research coming from those institutions who are not participating at all in the ranking system. So this is a dichotomic situation, and therefore we have to today deliberate on how we include those institutions first in the ranking system, how their publication record is to be increased, thereby India will stand to gain, and from 4.81%, how we can go ahead to become 6%, 10% of the global research production. As far as the number of PhDs produced from these institutions is concerned, is also constantly on rise, starting from 2017, 50,093 to today 27,201 annually. This is from those institutions who are participating in the ranking system, not from the rest of the institutions. But nevertheless, this is a large number, continuously increasing in the number of PhD candidates. The regional diversity, which we have very great emphasis, is also improving constantly, and number of students from same state is decreasing, number of students from other states in the institution has been on the rise. So this is a good sign of diversity in our Indian institutions. But when it comes to foreign students, that number is almost steady, constant. And when we talk about internationalization of education, a lot of support system, study in India portal, and going ahead, I'm sure this number also will start growing. As far as the spin-offs is concerned, although NIRF had intent of ranking of Indian institutions, our institutions do participate in the world rankings. And as far as QS is concerned, over from 2014 onwards, this data shows when we started our ranking in 2016, we were at 14 institutions figuring there. Today there are 45 institutions. That means there is clear increase in the number of institutions who get ranked worldwide. Similarly, in terms of the position, India is the 7th in terms of number of institutions appearing in the world rankings, and very close to Russia, Germany, and Japan. We have 45, the others are 48, 49, 52. Of course, 3 other countries, US, UK, and China, are little ahead of on that curve, but we are very close to some other countries, and very soon probably we will come to number 4 very easily, from number 7 to number 4. And this is a possibility which very clearly is visible thanks to NIRF ranking and the competitive spirit that exists. As far as the Times Higher Education ranking is also concerned, at 2017 we were having 2016, 17 institutions, and today there are 75 institutions who figure. We are not concentrating on those rankings, but nevertheless, there is a spin-off benefit which comes because of that. Now the challenges, as I said, there is a regional imbalance in terms of number of institutions. There is also imbalance in terms of tier 1 cities and tier 2, tier 3 cities in rural areas, remote areas, their participation, and therefore we need to do something to bring them on to the ranking framework. There is maybe some kind of a fear that we don't perform so much, how do we participate there, we will not get the rank, these kind of things are also there. So we need to continuously mentor them, improve their processes, and see to it that they also participate in the ranking system. And support them in data collection, mentoring, maybe a robust MIS system, because many times such institutions do not have robust data collection system itself, and therefore they cannot fill the form. So I think we need a lot of help to be given to them. And also build confidence by showing the best practices of some of the institutions. We are going to listen to 2 of them who are young institutions and who have still made the mark. Both Dr. Bhimrai Maitri and Dr. Ram will tell about their stories about success, and that will build the confidence. While going into the future, my co-panelists will speak a lot of things, but more importantly, Dr. Radhakrishnan, under whom a committee was set up for the reforms in approval, accreditation and ranking. He will speak about that. And therefore, based on that, how data collection through one nation, one data is going to happen. And then how data integrity, high trust, low cost system can be developed, which is easily shareable through APIs for all those who need it, maybe for approving authorities, accrediting authorities, ranking authorities, one single source of data collection. And more importantly, we have some percentage of weightages for different parameters, 5 parameters, but individually, stakeholders can have their own features for deciding on the ranking of institutions. I think that part will be taken care of by now Professor Radhakrishnan, and I will expect that there will be a lot of intense discussion thereafter in order to improve our NIRF system, ranking system, and also appear to be amongst the best in the world. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Dr. Radhakrishnan, over to you.
Good morning to the distinguished co-chair, panelists, and all those who are with us this morning. I have been an associate of the academic community for the last 8 years and closely engaged with this particular topic over the last 8 months. In fact, the year 2022, both UGC as well as the Ministry of Education have been at it, and in November 2022 this exercise started for looking at strengthening of the periodic assessment, accreditation and ranking of the Indian higher education institutions. This is the current picture. There are multiple agencies. We have the NIRF system that was just mentioned. We have the NAC, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, the National Board of Accreditation, and AICTE when it comes to specific technical programs. And if you look at that chart, NHEI, especially engaged in engineering education, over a 6-year cycle, we'll have to give 16 packets of information for various purposes. Now, if you look at the feedback that we get about this system, which has been studied in detail and also by an audit committee of NAC. First and foremost is low willingness of the HEAs. The numbers say about 35% of the institutions have only volunteered to be accredited. Only 20% have volunteered for the second cycle of accreditation. Essentially, there is a fear of failure. If we submit our results, will we get a negative report? The other issue is it is cumbersome process. All of you know that there is one form which is applicable for all types of institutions, and many of those information fields cannot be filled up, and if you don't fill up, sometimes you may lose also in the final score that you get. It is subjective. There are 3 stages: the SSR, the self-study report, there is a DVV, data verification validation, and also PTV, the personal team visits. All are by individuals. And if you look at SAG, about 70% of the information is provided on the system, and the balance are collected on site through the inspection. So subjectivities of different types come into the picture, which is also visible. There are inconsistencies between the various assessments of these agencies, and there are issues where the Indian Institute of Science probably would be ranked far, far below compared to a small university for various reasons actually. And if you look at the 93 parameters that have been used for this purpose by all these agencies, mostly they are input centric. If you look at NIRF, there is an emphasis on the outcome and the output. So, what we are trying to do now is to get into a new way of looking at the whole thing, and the vision that we have laid down is consistent with the vision of NEP. Adopt right away a simple, trust-based, credible, objective, and rationalized system for approval, accreditation, and ranking, with a verifiable and secured centralized database, technology-driven modern systems that could replace or minimize the manual involvement, and mentoring and incentivizing schemes for raising their participation as well as accreditation levels towards eminent significance and global acclaim. Coming to the specifics, there are a few points which I would like to highlight. First and foremost, today you go through an institutional accreditation and a program accreditation done by 2 agencies. We are suggesting that this could be amalgamated. And finally, we could arrive at a composite assessment as a table or star plot. I will just explain. And also look at the choice-based ranking system for the users, the personalized ranking system that Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe just now mentioned. Choice-based ranking system for different users. I will explain. Now, the NEP says go for binary accreditation. And today we have an 8-point grading done by NAC. What we are suggesting here is go for an adapted binary accreditation. And why that word adapted? Because first and foremost is the accredited group. Next one we will put into 2 categories, those who are in the threshold and those who are far below. And those who are far below need to be mentored And those institutions who could mentor them would certainly get a credit for their further evaluations. And the first category is accredited. That means we ensure that there is a minimum standard for all the institutions. But the life doesn't stop there for them. They need to raise their bar to next 5 levels. And that is by widening and also getting deep into the system. In leadership, we talk about 5 levels of leadership. Essentially, the same principle we have brought in, and the level 5 will be the multidisciplinary, research-oriented teaching institutions that we talk about, which should be a world-class institution. And we said the process is cumbersome, so simplify, especially the first cycle. And the re-accreditation we are suggesting to be made uniform once in 3 years. And if an institution gets accredited in the first cycle, for those engineering technical courses, there is no need for annual extensions by AICTE if the scope of the program does not change beyond a threshold level. Now, the composite assessment, this is a difficult process to be done. First and foremost, we need to have a standardized list of these programs. And what we are suggesting is give a composite table or a star plot, and each one of the spoke and its length will talk about the greatness in that particular program. There will be an institution which will have only 2 spokes. There will be an institution which will have 30 or 40 spokes, depending upon. And the institutions also will have the core circle, the central core circle. So one HEI may get high scores for a few programmatic domains and relatively low for the rest of the domains. And accreditation scores are paramount for improvement. And one point that needs to be stressed is the score or the rank does not stop at the level of the institution. It has to be brought down to each faculty member of the institute. It is they who finally raise the bar. The next one is a choice-based ranking system which could be used by diverse users. As a student, as a parent, as an employer, if they want to look at each institute where my child should go and study, so they may have their own parameters and they could make a choice. And this is a personalized system, and they could have their own weightage, location, professor, expertise, etc. So this tool is provided in the new system that we talk about. Now continuing, today we have one form for everyone, but if you look at the institutions, they are of different categories. So we are trying to categorize them based on 2 dimensions. One is the orientation and vision of the institute. Second one, the heritage and legacy. And there are 6 categories possible: multidisciplinary education, research intensive, teaching intensive, the specialized streams, and vocational and skill intensive, community engagement surveys. And use parameters on inputs, processes, outcomes, and impact. If you look at processes, for example, it may be about the faculty selection process. It may be about the way a doctoral thesis gets assessed over the 5 years period. And the most critical thing is link those parameters with the variables that we are going to measure. So for each category, on different aspects of the institution, he mentioned about 5 that are used in NIRF, we talk about 8. And then for the parameters, have the essential variables for which information has to be collected. And for each category, specify those variables. If there is an institution which is community oriented, or if there is an institution which is research intensive, the variables will be different for them. And then we use the same data set provided by the institution for assessment, accreditation, approval, scoring, etc. But for each user, the weightages will be different, so those business logics will be built in there. Now, going out of the manual process, we are going for technology-driven modern systems, and there is a unified elicitation tool that is being developed for a superset of data which could be used for all these purposes. And we looked at the various systems available today, and what we found is the one nation, one data platform is the best one to be adopted for this application. And what's happening there, I will just note. So what we are providing is adequate access control and security features in this data. Single point entry by HCIs with provision for yearly updates. And there is also a feeling that we cannot say that by July and it's all the data will come. It will come, but you can update it on a yearly basis. Verification of this data through collateral information. This is something which we are trying to build in. And we use the technology of crowdsourcing, but that crowd will be carefully selected peers. So we call it peer sourcing, and also trust enhancement measures, and also grading for those who are giving the information. Then application programming interfaces, which will be helpful for accreditation, ranking, approvals, etc. And all the information that you are going to provide should be compatible with the national digital frameworks that exist national level, at the educational level, and at the institution level. And this is possible today. And ideally, in the institutions, if you have a digital framework, from that, this data could be extracted easily without having to do with a lot of manual work for collecting this information. And this is a point essentially brought out by Chairman UGC. I should recognize that. Trust institutions. The paradigm has to change now, along with significant penalty, of course, for wrong submissions. And ensure that whatever data they give is also put in the public so that there is a public verification of this information. And idea is to enhance the credibility of the process and robust outreach mechanism and hand-holding of the potential entrants, which is about 65% today. And first one was to write down the framework, and I see one of my distinguished members, Professor Bharat Bhaskar, sitting there. We have worked out a timetable so that the whole thing could be completed, and which is possible to be done by 31st December 2023. And we have the able leadership of Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe and the director of IIT Gandhinagar to lead that process. First, eliciting feedback from the stakeholders was done by the ministry, and we had 1.5 months time on which this was put in public domain. By 15th of July, that time is over. We have very good feedback. We also had a session where at least 1,000 vice chancellors, directors participated, along with about 40 panelists chaired by our honorable MOS in the recent past. Completion of developmental tasks, this is what the team is doing. By end of August, we expect that to be completed. But then the most important thing comes that we need to have test and evaluation, trial runs, and system readiness. And at least 25 institutions that are simulated users should work on the system, and they should ensure that things go well and it is possible to do it in a streamlined way. then the necessary statutory clearances and notification to stakeholders will be taking place, and the transition campaigns and readiness review by third week of December, and the transition to the new accreditation system by 31 December 2023. And as envisaged in the Higher Education Commission of India, one of the constituent element is the National Accreditation Council. As and when it is in place, there will be a seamless transition of the existing system to that site. So I stop at this moment. Thank you very much, and thank you. There are about 35 experts from AICTE, UGC, NAC, and the ministry, and specialist institutions who have participated. And one thing what we also achieved in this process, IITs were not in the system of the assessment accreditation in the past. Now in the recent IIT Council held in Bhubaneswar, it has been decided in principle that all IITs will be part of the system. And as Anilji says, we also have good benchmarks established in the process. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Radhakrishnan. Now, may I invite the next panelist. You have the PPT, so we will give you first chance, and then the others. Dr. Uma Maheshwar Rao, please.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairman of this session, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, and I'm co-chair Dr. Radhakrishnan sir, and the fellow panelists, and my other distinguished directors from other NIT system, and distinguished vice chancellors from various institutions and other participants, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I just would like to thank for giving me this opportunity to sharing a few opinions on NIRF. Professor Radhakrishnan has given us overview about the accreditation processes, various things. Before I go into the NIRF, I would just like to reiterate on some points which Professor Radhakrishnan has stated about the accreditation. Now that IITs are also getting into this fold, the one point of observation, which is it's not to create any discrimination or anything like that, but often what I have been seeing for the last 6 years, whenever NITs are being accredited by the team, which is really sent by the ministry or the concerning body, they come from the university system. And then when they are trying to accredit the institutions like NIT, we are the sort of, again, very, very similar in all forms, teaching, learning, and assessment. We are completely along with the IIT system, following that IIT system. And therefore, we have a different, like a teacher has the liberty and then autonomy to set his own the teaching methods, and which have the outcome-based teaching only. And then he himself will be the evaluator. So this is the bone of contention. Very often we get, because there will be a lot of debate and discussions, and sometimes the accreditation team, they gets offended also that how come a teacher who is teaching the subject is the same evaluator. So which is not the case with UGC. I just request that I would have been more comfortably placed sitting in the audience and then throw some questions, dart the questions to the panelists, but being the panelist here, that I would like to share. Right, we have heard Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe elaborately giving out the various parameters which are there in that one. I just limit my personal expression, which is based on certain statistics, limit myself to the research confined to the technical institutions, number one. Number two, of late we are hearing a lot, and then even a few days back it was there, I think in one of the parliament sessions, the question was raised that 25,000 plus students have dropped out of the institutions, right, for various reasons. So now these are some questions about the fee, and I would like to focus on that one, the fee which the IITs and the NITs and some of the institutions are really charging the students for their tuition as well as other living expenses, and what exactly is the influence of that one. Are the students really, even yesterday in the panel discussion of the internationalization of education, right, there was one from the audience asked that the best students are from the lower the rung, and then they don't get the opportunities to for the higher and the better quality education abroad. So no, for that reason, I just would like to spend some time on that one with some statistics, and then again try to see how the digital technology is trying to answer some of the issues of the affordability of the students across who are not into that particular, right, sir. And incidentally, that NIT Rourkela has been associated with the Central Seat Allocation Board, CSAP, as well as JOSA for the last 2 years. And our observation has been that most of the parents, particularly the mothers, excuse me for that, they know about ranking. It's not that whether they are remotely placed or in cities or urban or anything, right? Today, when we are dealing with 56,000 plus registrations which have happened now, right, 90% of them, they know about the ranking. Because when they are really filling up their choice list, they can really make the choice of 800 institutions. That first question, which because we have really opened out a 24/7, 365 days, means all these days of registration processes of admission, right, we have the help desk in 12 regional languages at NIT Rourkela. So now, if I have taken some data from there, that everyone, every parent, right, has the question that what is the ranking of the institution, and then based on that one, they make the choice of the institution and the choice of the discipline. So today, NIRF ranking, right, there is no debate. Firstly, let us all accept, all the audience sitting in this room, let us all accept that it is the identity, asmita and astitva of every institution as far as NIRF ranking is concerned. Right? And then it has been really, since 2015, it has been helping us in trying to have it's a reliable tool, right? It has been a reliable tool in valuing the perception of the institution. Perception per se is, though it has only 10%, it is the most deciding factor. The reason is that Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe has given us the total 5 parameters, main parameters, in that sub-parameters, everything, kul milakar ke 18 hai, 18 parameters. Right? In that 18 parameters, the deciding parameter happens to be this perception. Perception is the most singularly most important parameter which we all should really try to take into account, because even today, for selecting the institutions, parents are also really concerned about what exactly is the perception of this institution. And it is also trying to, the same one parameter, perception, is also trying to influence the employers to really come to the institutions to pick up for the campus placements. Perception is also really playing a greater role for the student who is admitted into the institution. I am in the top ranked institution. Or top rank means, the question here is that it is not just within 100 ranks. Okay, let me be little critical here, that NIRF ranking top 25, and then top 50, and then the next 100, and out of the 100 you are not there anywhere. Okay, so now this is how the NIRF ranking gradation is there. And overall institution ranking also, there are so many opportunities for an institution which are higher ranked. For example, like Prime Minister's Research Fellowship, it is absolutely what is that called, the most important and then sought after the fellowship which the research scholars have, right, around 70,000 rupees per month is the total fellowship which gets. But then those institutions which are within the top 25 in overall ranking are qualified to be considered in the this PMRF fellowship. So that likewise, ranking is the most important thing which we all the institutions, we have got to really take the very important role, important and seriously. And then here, I would just like to take the attention of everyone. We don't really have to, this is I have done a little bit of exercise for the last 10 days, the moment I really got to know about that one, that of the 18 parameters, one perception which stands alone outside is perception. Let us keep it aside. After that, what we have is that teaching learning is one parameter, research, the practices is another single other parameter, graduate outcome, outreach, and then inclusivity and perception. These are the 5 main parameters. In these 5 main parameters, the most important one, 60% of the influence is by other sub-parameters. It's like faculty-student ratio and preferably the permanent faculty members, financial resources utilization, FRU, publications, quality publications, and then you have the placement and perception. If I really add up all these things, excluding the outreach, in that outreach what we have is that the women students, women faculty, including women members in the senior administrative positions and so on and so forth, if I really remove that, because it is contributing only 6 out of really 100. And if I really remove that one and then consider the remaining sub-parameters, 6 parameters, kul mila karke 60% is the total marks that you get. That means I'm just giving out a sort of an indicator, a cursor to all the institutions heads and as well as the other participants who are associated with NIRF ranking. Let us focus on these 6 parameters which will really define us within this 60% of the marks. And if I really take NIT Rourkela, we are at 62 marks out of 100, which including all our contributions in all the 18 parameters. Okay, that means if the institution is focusing more on faculty, permanent faculty, with respect to the ratio, which is Kakotkar's committees, there is there, and then UGC has also clearly very nicely clearly given what should be the standing this one in ratio. So now we have to focus more on trying to induct or appoint qualified teachers so that this faculty student ratio, it makes a valuable contribution into your institutional ranking. Next is that financial resources, which is really linked to the research also. Research is linked to publication. Publication is linked to the quality publication. So this is one is related to the other one, and then in total they have a cumulative relationship or cumulative influence on our ranking. So this is one thing which we all have to. Here is one statistics I just would like to really share with you, that I have really categorized into a few 5 groups, that is top IITs, and then the top ranked NITs, and then triple ITs, government funded technical institutions, and then private institutions. Now here which we have got to really, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate those group of top ranked private institutions. They are not too far from any of these IITs or NITs. Right, this is very clearly, this is the data is taken from the NIRF only, as well as the government funded technical institutions, their data only, authentic data. Right, if you just try to see here, the top ranked IITs, their research practices, RP, in that NIRF ranking, right, they are in 80 plus, 80 percentage. When it comes to NITs, the top ranked NITs, all the NITs, we are at 50, 55. And now triple ITs are in 21, 25. So now triple ITs, those who are from triple ITs, we need to consider, or rather you need to consider, more focus should be put on the research practices of your institutions. Private institutions are really in the race and moving very fast and very likely to catch up, or rather they have already crossed NITs. They are very closely following this. So this is one point of concern. All the NITs, we have got to tighten up our belts and then work towards really improving this, our research practices. Research practices, again, it is linked to publications also. If you look at the publications, IITs are at the 30%, the top IITs, NITs are in the 25%, and then triple ITs are in 9 to 10%, and then GFTIs are 12% and around that one, and then private institutions are also really at par with NITs at 25%, right? So now, here again, there is a feeler for us to really take into, and a feather in the cap of private institutions is that they have taken NIRF ranking quite seriously. just, okay. I'll just quickly try to conclude that intellectual property rights also, this is the picture which I would like to share, and then let me straight away, because the paucity of time, I will just try to go to the other most important thing is that about the fee, which we are really most concerned about, is serious observation, is that affordability, because of the affordability of those students who are belonging to the lower economical groups. If you just try to look at this one, the total expenses, living expenses in IITs are 2,63,145 in IITs, 2,47,000 is NITs, triple IT is 2,62,000, GFTIs, the lowest fee and other expenses is 82,000, and private institutions are really charging high, that is 4 lakhs, the 6,000. And then here, the point which we have got to consider is that IITs, NITs, GFTIs, triple ITs, they give 100% fee waiver, 100% fee waiver to SC, ST students. They don't have to pay any tuition fee. 100% tuition fee waiver for the unreserved belonging to EWS or OBC, NCL, and then whose annual income is less than 1 lakh. 66% tuition fee waiver for unreserved EWS, OBC, NCL, whose income is lower than the 5 lakhs per annum. So now, apart from this one, apart from these opportunities, right, there are good number of scholarships and then given by Government of India. They are taking care of the students belonging to the economically weaker section and various others who are entitled for various things. Like 52% of the students are having one or the other scholarships. And then 57 students are in NITs, 57% of the students are having scholarships in the same fashion. If you look at the I compare that in private institutions, the number of scholarships which are available for the students, in spite of the fact that their fee structure is very high, right, the scholarships available is very less, that is menial, very, very small, that is 5. So now these are the points which I just would like to really state. And then there are today, we have plenty of digital opportunities to make the education affordable for those students who are not in these IITs, in these NITs, or in these triple ITs. And then the elite, the private institutions, they still have a lot of opportunities trying to really get to the quality education, because NIRF is trying to say that NEP is also emphasizing equity, equality, quality, and inclusivity. Quality education is the issue which we have today, because many statistics, many reports have stated, emphatically stating that our graduates are not employable. Large percentage of the graduates are not employable. Only 46% of the Indian graduates are employable, ready to take the job. As they land in the industry, they have to run. This is the expectation of the industry, and in that, we have got to really try to create a quality education for everyone through various digital technology forums that we have. The Swayam Prabha, National Digital Library, Virtual Labs, National NAD is there, eShod Sindhu, eKalpa, Vidwan, eYantra, and high-end Karyashalas are there, as well as Gyan programs, NPTEL. These are various other programs which we have. I just limit here my talk here, and then I may take the questions, whoever is interested from the audience, and then in the discussions. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Umameshwar Rao, for bringing in many facets. What are the various issues involved? So we will discuss about them. May I request Professor Ram, Vice Chancellor UPES, to give his short presentation. Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. In the interest of time, I would refrain from extended greetings. So my greetings, good morning. I'd start by congratulating and showing my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the NBA and NIRF team led by Dr. Nasa for creating this wonderful framework and executing this flawlessly. This has also brought in a paradigm shift resulting into the quality conscious and awareness amongst all the institutions and society at large. Private institutions have been more kind of agile in adapting to and adopting to what is expected, also kind of getting more awareness in terms of the parameters and how one work on those parameters, move fast if there are weaknesses and so on. So I'd also like to share some of our experiences. I work with UPS Dehradun, which is a rather young private university, state private university, and what we tried to do and how it resulted into some of the outcomes for us and some of the learnings that could be useful for the larger group. Rankings, not just in India, but otherwise also everywhere, they kind of came into existence for being kind of consumer guides for students and parents so that they can make decisions as to where to go and study, which program to study and so on. And then there was this world-class university framework which was given also by the World Bank, a report written by Professor Altbach and Salmi, essentially laying down 3 points that what a world-class institution should be or should have. One is of course high concentration of talent, which basically means high quality faculty members, good students, and by good students I do not necessarily mean the traditional notion of bright students who crack to IITs and IIMs. By good students, I would say that students who want to learn and who are willing to work hard. The second is abundance of resources, because to create high quality institution, it requires a lot of resources, particularly if you want to undertake research. There's a lot of investment which is involved. And the third is favorable governance system and result into a great autonomy for the institution, which results into self-governance and so on. Now, what we tried to do, I mean, UPS was predominantly a good teaching institution, honestly. And when we started this journey on our kind of educating ourselves with what rankings require and how do we take up that journey. And of course, as I mentioned, good faculty and good students, resources and autonomy. These were the 3 pillars I think that we realized we should and we must work on. So we started by hiring a lot of faculty members. In last 3 years alone, we hired close to 400 faculty members from all over India and abroad from many good institutions. Also created a ecosystem of investments, research infrastructure, augmenting or creating new infrastructures, etc. And then also kind of used the locational disadvantage which many people might think. It's a rather quaint town, tier 2 city, foothills of Himalaya and so on. But I think proximity to Delhi and Delhi being kind of what it is in terms of pollution and whatnot, many people in fact wanted to be close to Delhi but still be in a much better environment, air quality and so on. So that kind of worked well for us rather. And we were able to attract many good faculty members. I would just give a statistics that 3-4 years back we had none of our faculty members who featured in, let's say, top 2% researchers in the world or highly cited researchers, etc. But as of today, we have more than 25 faculty members who are amongst world's top 2% researchers. About 8 of them are highly cited researchers and so on. So that then kind of resulted into gradually our research output kind of seeing an upward trend. In 2020, for example, we had published about 500 research papers on Scopus. This year, that's likely to be around 3,000. So within 3 years, from 500 to 3,000 is an incredible growth. In terms of absolute output, we are this year ahead of IIT Kanpur for that matter. In terms of per capita output, we are ahead of almost all the institutions in India except maybe the older IITs and IISc Bangalore. And that has then resulted into not just quantity scaling up, but also being conscious of the quality, what kind of citations that result into, what kind of journals those papers must be published in, etc. And that then, so for example, again 3 years back, the number of quartile 1 papers that we used to publish was about 15%. This year, not just 3,000 papers are being published, but almost 50% of them are in Q1 journals. So about 3 years back, our percentages of papers with international co-authors was around 10%. This year, it's almost 40%. So getting in high quality faculty members dramatically change everything else. And that's the kind of bottom line that I wanted to share, that once the institution can start attracting very good quality faculty members and then start enabling them, creating that conducive atmosphere, reduce teaching loads. I mean, one of the typical conversations that I hear from many private institutions and promoters is that, oh, faculty member is not teaching UGC prescribed teaching load 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours. That translates into almost 6 to 7 3-credit courses being taught in one semester. Now, if a faculty member is teaching 5 to 6 courses a semester, which is 3-credit courses, and many a times these are not even same course being taught to multiple cohorts. These are actually unique courses taught to different cohorts. So where is the prep time? One has to do assessment. There is no system of teaching assessments in teaching assistants in private universities, most private universities, because there is hardly any full-time PhD students. So how do you empower faculty members? We also then back this by a strong full-time PhD program. So in 2020, for example, we had only 13 full-time PhD students. Right now, as of today, we have 400. And within a year or two, we will reach about 700-800. So every faculty member now gets almost a TA in that sense. And so creating this entire ecosystem, which not only helps attract better quality faculty members, but also support them in what they should be doing. They should be doing good teaching, they should be doing good research, and so on. And as a consequence, our NIRF rank, which was about 160 in 2020, became 100, then became 65, then became 52 this year. And now our research output will start kind of getting in. So for example, 2020 we produced 510 Scopus papers, 2021 we produced 1180, 2022 we produced 2200, and 2023 we are producing close to 3000 this year. So now the output of 22 and 23 will start triggering the next rounds of rankings, which would in next couple of years we hope we would be amongst top 25 institutions in India. Also, this has helped to get into QS World Rankings. So this year we participated for the first time in the QS World Rankings, and we kind of had a good debut. We were ranked in the rank band of 901 to 950 in the world, ahead of BITS Pilani and so on. Fourth private institution in India. In academic reputation, which also we worked quite consciously, because academic reputation in the QS World Ranking has one of the highest weightages. So we are ranked 9th in academic reputation in India, the only private university in India to be ranked amongst top 10 in QS World Rankings. Now this 40% international papers co-authored by 40% papers which are co-authored by international co-author has a bearing on what kind of votes we are getting from foreign destinations, because if researchers know each other, they are producing high quality articles with each other, then they tend to vote for you when these voting rounds open. And therefore we kind of try to map that who are our researchers which are publishing with high quality researchers abroad and so on. And then this one-on-one mapping then kind of resulted into hopefully better votes and therefore hopefully better academic reputation and so on. So understanding of the methodology, working on kind of faculty empowerment, research investments, creating this ecosystem of full-time PhD students, etc. However, being cautious of the fact that, you know, it's essentially a zero-sum game. I mean, because there'll be only 10 institutions which will be top 10. So what exactly one should do or think beyond the rankings, because rankings are important, but they are not really equal to brand or reputation. Essentially, student outcomes and how students are doing over a long period of time is what creates a reputation and brand for an institution. Now, like India, there are many institutions. For example, whether it is Germany, which launched this Institution of Excellence award initiative, Japan's MEXT ministry also launched something similar. Russia, Nigeria, China, India launched this Institution of Eminence and whatnot. So all the countries which perceive themselves as great nations like we do, they also feel somewhere that we are being left behind in the rankings. It's essentially dominated by US and UK, right? So lot of those initiatives have been kind of taken up by those governments. Also, there are alternative ranking frameworks that have been evolved. For example, I mean, the typical ones are ARWU, Shanghai Ranking, QS Times, etc., US News and World, Shimago Institutional Rankings. There was this European Commission came up with this very interesting concept, U multi-rank, which essentially ranked the institution based on student evaluations, how students voted or rated their experiences and learning outcomes with those institutions. Universitas 21, which was developed by Australian kind of University of Melbourne, it rather tries to rank the countries and national higher education systems rather than individual institutions. So for example, NIRF has done a great service to India, but whether the Indian higher education at large has improved, and how do we see that whether the entire higher education system is improving rather than just these top 100 institutions improving. And therefore, one of the things that we can think of is maybe ranking states that institutions as well as states, that which are the states which are doing better on the higher education systems within those states, and therefore maybe nudging state governments that how could they encourage their respective institutions and so on, so that they start doing better. One of the alternative things that, just last 1 minute, sir. So one of the alternative models, because I mentioned it's a zero-sum game essentially, so what should then the higher educational institution start thinking about? Being conscious of rankings, but at the same time working on the quality. So this is a flagship model which was created by my host professor at University of California, Berkeley, John Douglas. And he lists down fundamentally 7 parameters: that the university should be comprehensive, they should be accessible, they create next generation of leaders, highly autonomous, internal culture of evidence-based management, economic engagement for the region or nation, and it's rather a leader in the larger higher education ecosystem of their region or nation wherever they are created. Essentially focusing on internal academic culture, focusing on the core, which is teaching, learning, research, self-improvement, strong internal audit, and impact through technology transfer, etc. So with that, I'd like to kind of conclude that rankings are very, very important, but they are not equal to reputation or brand, and therefore one should work on rankings, but also at the same time have a strong focus and emphasis on student learning outcomes that results into reputation over a long term of time. Quality of research is another idea. I mean, in the process, because many ranking agencies focus more on quantity and not quality, but over long term quality is what it matters. Therefore, quality also must be focused upon. And how does one make the entire nation benefit from these ranking frameworks rather than only a few institutions kind of benefiting? Thank you so much.
Very good morning, respected chairpersons, Radhakrishnan ji, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, and my distinguished panel members and distinguished participants. So I think all the four distinguished people have already spoke. So and the time is less. I will talk about focus on my particular institute, that is not institute, sector, that is a management education. And Indian Institute of Management, all of you know that they are the PG institutions, postgraduate institutions, and very few are now entering into undergraduate. And IIT and NIT and other higher education products are input to the management institutions. And when it comes to NIRF ranking, if you see the NIRF ranking, management institutions, when it comes to research, so they follow the engineering institutions or IITs, but in the parameter research and professional practice, there are 3 important components apart from number of publication and citations: the funded projects, and the executive education, that is executive development programs, and the patents and IPR. So out of this, when it comes to management institution, these are the parameters basically bring down the management institution in the ranking. Because the executive development program, out of 15, 5 marks are given in the research, it is a 30% weightage. But if you look at all the management institution, executive education is one of the important division, and even our bigger IIMs, first generation IIMs, they generate sometimes more than the student fee as a, for example, Bangalore, it crosses 200 crores rupees for executive education, but weightage is only, 5 marks are there out of 15, that executive. And second one, If you look at the patents, patent published and patent granted, so again management institution, it is more or less not applicable. So this is another important thing, and that is where you may see that management institution never find at the top of the top, even though our first generation IMs are already doing better. But if you look at the outcome, our products going out to the market, their package and salary, it is not matchable to any other institutions, any other sector. When you look at the globally, there are 81. If you look at the India, there are 81 journals, Indian journals. They are in the area of economics, management, and its related area. Number of journals, so they are very less. And also, when ranking the NIRF, the publications, they are only taken business and management. Management is it is an interdisciplinary area, multidisciplinary. So people publishing from operations, they will publish the paper, they comes to engineering background. People, those who publish in economics, that goes to economics area. Psychologists, HR and OB people, they publish in psychology. So that those articles are not counted even though they are published. So these are some of the issues why management institutions are not figuring at the top. Sir, I'm telling the reverse way why we are going down. And if you also look at the 3-year, 2-year back, 3-year data, previous 3-year data we take, and the faculty member, when they move from one place to other place, and because we are collecting the data from third-party sources, and because of that, the faculty in 3 years, if person moves to 3 places, so 3 places his contribution goes. Person is moving to the present place, he is in IIM Nagpur, but his previous 2 years, whatever the credentials are there, they are not coming to this particular institution. But global, all the ranking and accreditations, the individual contribution, wherever the person is working, that affiliation, that institution is taken into account. Maybe because of convenience and collecting the data, maybe 2016 when the first NRF came, maybe some problems were there issues, then it has been changed to third party sources. But because of that, even though we attract the best of the best faculty, what Ram said, but their earlier year contribution, particularly institutions like ours, new generation IIMs, those who started 15, 16, and we don't have data, we don't have faculty member, and we have to attract the best of the best faculty for publication and also for teaching, and new institution and building the reputation takes its own time. But in spite of that, if my experience, while working with IIM Tiruchirappalli, so within a short time, perception part we have increased, and probably one of the first generation IIM also we have crossed in perception, 65 or so. It became number 6, and even IIM Nagpur also perception it is doing well. But when it comes to research, it takes its own time. Faculty member, when the freshly completed PhD, those they also have to be trained as a teacher as well as a researcher. So it takes time. But I'm extremely happy what Professor Radhakrishnan committees, the recommendations, and bringing many things, whatever the transparency part and even the funding part and all those things are taken into account. And one data, one nation probably. So this also helps bringing more transparency and also enhance research as well as ranking. If you look at the India, 1950, we are only 20 universities. We have now crossed more than 1,250,000 colleges, 1,200 universities, and our population 1.42 billion. So out of 4 graduates in the world, 1 will be from Indian. So Indian, this NEP 2020 institution of eminence, and also multidisciplinary education research universities are focusing more on research, and it will help India to position at global level, whether it is a QS ranking or the Times ranking, all those places we may probably do better. So thank you very much.
Yeah, floor is open now. Maybe 4-5 questions.
First of all, congratulations for this panel session, Radhakrishnan ji, Sahasrabudhe ji and other eminent members. Timely, very timely. But I spent almost 25 years in IIT system, now leading an NIT Jaipur, Professor N.P. Padhi. It's a wonderful experience when you transit from IIT system to NIT system. You understand everything better. Now my question is, now in IIT system we have been taught to focus on quality and irrespective of the ranking. So we work on quality and automatically we get a good ranking. After coming to NIT, what I've realized, the master's programs are not so popular as like IIT system. So some of the programs are really struggling to get it filled. So if you maintain the quality, then you fill only 50% of the seats through high gate score, no spot rounding, nobody having a gate qualification cannot take admission. That's what we emphasize on. But I have been scared by my NIRF team that if you go with the quality the way you are behaving for last 1.5 years, the rank will fall down because the vacant seats in our master's program will disturb your ranking. So I request Professor Sahasrabudhe, please advise how to maintain quality and ranking too simultaneously. Thank you very much.
I think number of students we will take care. I've understood the problem. Yeah, thank you.
But can I respond to that?
Yeah, you can.
So, sir, I fundamentally disagree that high gate scores is equal to high student caliber. So you should rather give chance to students who have whatever scores and then work more with them, because I think the attitude of the student and their attitude towards learning is more important rather than 99 percentile in gate.
Thank you very much. First thing is, we have the NIRF ranking for the last 5-6 years. We have gone up to only the 0 to 100. Right? Then we give the 100 to 50, 150 to 200 for the universities. Right? I think we should increase it to maybe to 400, so maybe to 300 percentage, so that we people who are in the rank of 150 to 200, they should also know where they stand. Right. Second thing is, I want to say about the perception. The perception, we are also on the peer team. We give the names. Right. We give the, for example, from 1 to 10. 1 to 10 universities we have to select. Right. So 1 to 10, we can give maybe all of us. If we sit down, we will find 20 universities in the first. We will have the 1 to 10. But I think we should also increase it so that we can, those who are having lower perception, they can be also put up. Otherwise, we are doing it. We are doing incorrectly. We are maybe favoring someone. Right? So that perception should change. Third thing I want to say is, as Sir was saying, that you have to work on how to see student-teacher ratio, right? So teacher-student ratio or whatever. Right, it is having the different consequences. I see some of the colleges having 25 teachers 10 years back, and their strength was 1,000, maybe 750. But the student has come to 300. The teacher-student ratio has come up to very well, which is 1 to 10. Right, so it's affecting their teacher-student ratio in a better way, but the quality has gone down. Actually, the quality has gone down. So we should also figure out that how GER should be taken. What is the actual outcome that a university or a college is contributing toward enhancing the GER, right? I for example, I increase my sheets by 10%, but I know it will affect my ranking, but I don't care because my aim is to increase GER. So okay, thank you.
My question to Maheshwar Rao sir. In your presentation, you have shown the fee structure and outcome. So when to compare to NITs and the private institutions, the fee component, I think that you calculated the salary component also or not. If you will not count the salary component, the fee is more high than the private institutions, and the outcome is more in the private institution.
Salary,
component.
No, yeah, yeah. No, NIT is the money you are spending.
Hello, yeah.
You've shown something, and
Yeah.
the private institutions it is more high fee structure.
So no, I think these are the, sir, if I may answer, can I answer now? Right, these are the two different aspects, sir. The reason is that all the government institutions, IITs, NITs, IIITs, and then GFTIs, we are bound to follow the reservation system, right? In that one, and if you just try to say, we have even tried to make a statistics which I did not place it here. If the total number of, for example, at NIT Rourkela, there are 8,600 students enrolled, registered at NIT Rourkela. And if I really calculate the ratio of the faculty salaries and then the student fee without the reservation, means without any exemption, 65% of the salaries are covered up by the student's fee. Whereas if I really put on the entire reservation system into that one, it is only 18% of the faculty salaries are taken up by the fee. That means 82% of the salaries of the students is taken care by the government through various forms of these scholarships and various other forms. So now these two are independent things, sir, and they don't really try to. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going in continuation with Professor Padi's number. I'm Ramashankar Verma, and Director NIT Allahabad. What you said basically in a private sectors and government sector. Oh, now you can hear me? Yeah. Just continuation of Dr. Padi's question about the MSS students. What a private institution does, you should not care about the GATE exam, but you are bound with the RR rules of the government that we need to have a GATE exam. That is the reason we are following that. I agree with you that some of the students who doesn't have GATE qualification, they are better candidate. With my personal experience, I can tell you, they are the better candidate, they go to different places. But there are certain rules and regulation in government institution, we have to follow it. And that's exactly what is the limit with us.
I just mentioned that the cutoffs could be lower. I didn't mean that you admit without GATE scores. I said the cutoffs could be lower. That was the point that he was making.
हरि ओम प्रहलाद जोशी कुलपति कुमार भास्कर वर्मा संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय Assam राज्यम. Sir, my question is, what is the criteria of including different disciplines in NIRF ranking framework? Year by year, the different, new disciplines are including. So there was a representation given by, there are about 16 Sanskrit universities, many language universities, more than 1,000 Sanskrit colleges are there. So we cannot compete with the IITs, ISS and all those things. So I request, sir, a separate discipline should also be included for language universities, Sanskrit and all. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Shalini Bharat from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We happen to be the only social science institute, and when we are talking about what I heard from the Management Institute and the private institute, we share some problems like you have, but some very unique as well. So there will never be a question of patents and IPRs and innovations, but we do have to get some scores in this, which will of course be zero. We will never have something that we show as community engagement policy impact, so where does that go? Social science publications also are of very different kind, more of books. There are many solo publications also, not necessarily always as a team. But more importantly also, the perception thing, we don't know exactly how it goes. We would like to have more information. And just now, somebody said that, we are more concerned about, say, including new programs like vocational education, which increases your GER, but your faculty student ratio is, disturbed. So if we are looking at skilling as a major focus, then we are losing out, and this is what showed in our recent ranking also. So we would like to have maybe Dr. Radhakrishnan take notice of all these issues, which are really loaded against institutions like
thank you,
Social
thank
Science
you, thank
Institute.
you.
Thanks.
I'll just take 2 or 3 minutes to just summarize. First of all, thank you to all the speakers for the wonderful presentations, including specific issues related to some of those universities which are brought out in the panel discussion. Professor Uma Maheshwar Rao asked a specific question to me on the NIT's bone of contention with the university system. In fact, when we work out in the new accreditation system, the 8 aspects, the several parameters, and the variables which have to be taken, this is taken care of, number 1. Then I will come to the second issue, that take home from what our young VC mentioned, that the vision, the direction, the focus, and the associated supports for those pillars that he mentioned, that made the difference. This is a message for all of us actually. Of course, there is a philosophical issue, the quality versus quantity, but I think that we can discuss subsequently. Now, regarding the specific issues of the management institutes, pharmacy institutes, institutes of social science, etc., that we have taken care of in the new system through the categorization. If I just again go back to the categorization, we have community engagement services as a specific part of it. For example, there is a KISS in Bhubaneswar. It can't be compared with one of the IITs or IISc in terms of ranking. You have to have parameters for that. There are institutions in rural areas which are engaged in teaching and developing skilled manpower, like SLIGHT in Longowal. They have to be judged differently. So this is something which we have identified. And management institutes, the case studies is another area which one has to talk about, because each case study is like a paper actually. So how do you take care of that? So in this categorization, we can do that part of it. In this context, I will also suggest to the Joint Secretary of the Ministry that please open that MyGov for the feedback for 1 more week, so that from this group, if there are specific suggestions, that could be also included. So this is the next point I wanted to suggest. I think we have taken care of most of the inputs that we came. Fee structure, of course, is an indirect part of it. How do you calculate that? I am not getting into detail of that. I will leave it to Professor Sahasrabuddhe now to tell us what is his plan, and he is the person to whom we have handed over the whole report. So he will be implementing it.
So thank you, Professor Radhakrishnan ji. In fact, many hands were raised. We were not able to accommodate all of them. I'm very sorry, because we took more time. We should have taken less time. But in any case, the portal is open. Your suggestions are welcome. We will incorporate all of them in the final report which Professor Radhakrishnan will submit. And the action on implementation of One Nation, One Data has already begun. With the help of our director of IIT Gandhinagar, and AICT has some base, sort of software engineers who have been already working on creating a platform through which all information can be collected only one time in a year, and then through APIs for regulatory bodies like AICT, UGC, it will be shared. It will be also shared to accrediting bodies like NAC and NBA. It will be shared with the ranking, and then any state government also wishing to take data from the colleges and universities of that state, we will share with them. I think that way it will become a task which is ease of doing business is going to happen. With these few words, I thank all of you for participating. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, everyone. I have few announcements. Everyone is requested to kindly attend the valedictory function in level 2 at 3 p.m. Meanwhile, you may visit the exhibition hall, which is at hall 14. Lunch will be arranged for you all at level 2 near auditorium 2 at 1:30. On your way out, we are giving out those black tags. So please kindly ensure that you collect the black tags for the lunch. Thank you.